that we want to see when we hold people accountable for the lives that they take away of Ugandans. So we don't have this situation where somebody's killed, they come home and then there is just a whole mess. No one is accountable and the family loses.
Young people are dying of cold on the streets in the Arab world. If there is winter, if it is a winter and there's snow like it is here, you need only 30 minutes for somebody to freeze.
You know, the labor externalization policy, its operationalization has failed because the legal framework that was set up in Uganda is not enforceable.
And how can we resolve the problems in the Middle East? Obviously, like we've previously stated, there needs to be a streamlined system, a process that monitors and supervises the entire process, the entire recruitment and the working and everything else.
Museveni has told the whole world, we have cheap labor in Uganda. Cheap labor in Uganda. Now, when somebody defines you as cheap labor and he advertises you and he's leading a country, then people look at where is this cheap labor. Then he finds people who can exploit this cheap labor. And that's how I've ended up in this quagmire.
Mr. Oriam stands and says, okay, they are not going to help people who are working in the Middle East. They should be consistent. If they're not going to help the people, then they should stop the labor externalization policy, period. It's no point deploying people, knowing you do not have capacity to look after them as a government.
If you look at the number of people coming back on average every week in the box or every month, and then look at the families they leave behind, there is going to be a huge problem in the future. Both we're going to have uneducated children, and they won't have the skills to even. It's going to be we're going to be in a worse state than we are today.
So this is because one, we might not be that rich, but we're exposed. Two, the level of discussion tells you that we're not ignorant. We came in simply because you are on a social media and you are seeing a crying girl and you're interested in finding out what is this that is happening with this girl. You only get shocked to find out that somebody took that girl to the Middle East and you're like, who did it?
The closure of this office is of concern. I think this has been the last watchdog that has been reporting, although they've not been effectively protecting the rights of citizens, of the Ugandan citizens. Now, do not put your child on the plane. What you expect is they can as well write their will because they will come back in a casket. It is bleak, it is gloom, unless this government really wakes up.
So I welcome you to this particular discussion. Dr. James, it has been a long time since we had the show. I think that was 2 months ago about the Mulago issues. And Sarah, very long time, but I'm very happy to be with you guys this particular hour to discuss patent issues, national importance, national issues. However, the really important people in Uganda have not invited themselves to help to work on these particular issues, especially the Middle East. And I was so surprised the last week when I think it was on Wednesday, when they launched this video of labor policies in Middle East, and now the government of Uganda, they're telling us, if they see anybody playing that video, Chigo is waiting for us. And I was almost play that video. Then Lumbi last night, he told me, please don't play that video because they will come for you. So I welcome you guys, wherever you are. We're going to have this particular, there are very many questions to discuss this particular hour. So we want to find out the Middle East labor migration challenges, possible solutions and recommendations into our country. Now, I don't know the way to go. I will start with Dr. James. Maybe to let us, what is the labor externalization policy about? What do you think about how things should be done? And what is the policy?
Well, I don't know where to come in and what to say, but it's basically there's need for labor across the world. That's what I'll tell you. Even the United States where I am, there is need for labor. And simply put, to an ordinary person, it's basically working out terms that can allow people who want to go out to work to have maybe fair working conditions. Fair working conditions, because different countries have different working conditions. But when we talk about an externalization policy, it means the country must have an organized way of doing it. I can simply say it that way. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can just come in, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mgeni, for that submission. Yeah, labor externalization policy in the context of Uganda actually was enacted in 2005, and the objective was to, of course, to export labor to the Middle East. There was a need, there was demand. And back home, we had, of course, very high levels of unemployment. We had high levels of poverty and very informal, people engaging in a very informal sector, some of which was really disguised, employment, so to say. So there was a need, and that is when the government decided to create this policy. However, a policy that was meant to create jobs soon morphed into a human trafficking crime that we see on the rise. So much as they had very good intentions, they've lacked the legal framework. Much as they also even had a legal framework, they've not been able to enforce this labor policy, so to say. Just to give it a bit of context. Thank you.
Okay. In most cases, to cut you short, in some churches, when we are praying, sometimes the preacher first read maybe, how do you call it? Maybe the verses and things of that kind. Then at the end of the day, they introduce themselves. Can you imagine? You have not even introduced yourselves to the public. So we'd love to know if we talk about, so who is Sarah? If we talk about Dr. James, who is Dr. James? So kindly cut you short. I would feel comfortable to know the kind of the guest that I have at this hour. I go back to Dr. James. Who is Dr. James?
Flashlight, I'm James William, again, Ugandan, and a concerned citizen. On this, I have been part of that small team, perhaps the team that you are addressing, that has been trying to address the plight of these young immigrant workers to the Middle East. So I'm part of that team.
Okay.
I'm based in the United States currently, and that's where I've been struggling to help connect with my other colleagues who are on this wall, on this chat, to try to help these young people on a humanitarian basis, because we're not, it must come out clearly that we're not paid to do it. We volunteer to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roger. Yes, and thank you, viewers. My name is Joe Valkaso. I'm based in Sweden, and I'm speaking in my capacity as a member of the Diaspora Human Rights Defenders. Thank you.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I am speaking in the capacity of a human rights defender, and I've been working alongside the two gentlemen for a while now. So yeah, I'm here to defend the rights of brothers and sisters in who have been sent to parts of the world, Middle East, and not cared for. So that's me.
Maybe can Dorcas hear us, though we can't see her?
Yes, I can
I don't think
hear
she's
you.
on. Oh, she's
Unfortunately, there is so much noise, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to. There's so much noise where I am, but yes, I can hear you. Sorry. Yes, I'm a human rights activist, and I will not shut up until Museveni is gone. I have been working with the Lean team that has just introduced themselves along with others. And we do run the platform Uganda is Bleeding. And we've been speaking for over 2 years about the injustices, the gross human rights abuses in Uganda. Thank you so much for having us here. I will come in at some point once I find a quiet location. Otherwise, I will be in the background. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm also called Aheva Rogers, and Dr. Mgenyi is my former teacher, my former coach. Doctor of psychology, it's what I studied. And Dr. Mgenyi, by the way, you mentored me, and here I am. So, so I didn't know that when we grow up, sometime we shall meet. Now, today we are together. So that Dr. James we see him is my mentor, long-time mentor. So
maybe I need to tell the world that I used to train you how to fight. I used to psych you because it was sports. And yesterday we ran cross country. I think you saw. So it's something we are proud of, because I am happy when you mention it, because we are transferring the skill of sports now to speak and also to help the world. Yes, that sports brought us together and brings humanity together. I'm just so happy that yesterday we won cross country. So you have reminded me. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now that's nice that I'm with you this particular hour. And by the way, I was very surprised when I heard the government of Uganda saying, you guys in diaspora, you contribute a lot of funds. You contribute a lot of resources to our economy, but you are not part of the decision makers when it comes to decisions. So we are still wondering, what do you think? What could be your input? How can we influence the government to allow you people to be part of us, to take decisions in the parliament, in communities and everywhere, and yet you contribute a lot of resources to our country's economy? What do you think we can easily do? How can you come in? How can you help the government? You guys to be part of us. Sarah.
Doctor.
I'll leave Joe to take over that first, then I'll come in later.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I just wanted to give a brief introduction about our initiative, and then I answer that, if it's okay. Yes. I think we've introduced ourselves, but we need to speak just a little bit about our outreach work in the Middle East. Actually, our initiative was a response to the dysfunction of this labor externalization policy that was enacted in 2009. Of course, the objective, as I've said, was to create jobs, but then reality turned out to be something else. So we as Ugandan citizens, actually recognized this problem. And having recognized this problem, there were many issues of workers' rights abuses, but there were issues of people being returned in cascades, a whole raft of concerns as far as migrant labor governance is concerned. So we came together, and this group actually consists of Ugandan migrant workers themselves based in the US, in the Middle East. That was the initiative. And this was supported by Ugandans on the ground, Ugandans in Uganda, that is. It was also supported by Ugandans in the diaspora. And this consists of a whole raft of many, many different people, varied backgrounds and professions. And also it was supported by Friends of Uganda. So now these are also, it is a people, very backgrounds spread across the globe. So this is the group that actually has been reaching out, has been speaking, and has been trying to see how best we can make some changes. So initially our work was around governance, migrant, around migrant, or rather labor, around labor governance issues, with advocacy around there. So we talked about labor laws, we talked about race relations, acclimatizations, particularly for those who are new in the Middle East. The idea was to empower our migrant workers so that they're able to fight for their rights, they're able to defend their welfare, but also to be able to navigate a very complex system. Many of them were out for the first time, so we've been trying really to make them strong, as far as their rights is concerned, as far as their welfare is concerned. So having empowered this group, they've come up, they've been able, first of all, to articulate issues that are related to labor migration, and they've been able to respond to some of the substantive issues that have arisen. For example, the recently suspended bilateral labor agreement. I think one of the initiatives has been to make a petition to Parliament to see that they address the issues that are recurrent and that are outstanding. This petition was presented to Parliament it was sometime in September, so it's now 5 months down the road. Sadly, this petition has not been responded to, and we are still seeking answers, and we want to know why Parliament has not responded to this. The migrant workers also have actually made a proposal to the bilateral labor agreement, so that when they negotiate a new labor agreement, they address most of the outstanding issues that have been outlined. So this group has been able to achieve a number of things, including, ladies and gentlemen, for the past 2 years, we've been able to free or to rescue over 100 migrant workers from different distress scenarios. This, of course, we continue to work together. So I think that is just a little bit about the work that we're doing. Yeah, thank you. I thought that introduction was necessary so people can understand who we are, where we're coming from, and what we stand for, and what we fight for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe let me add on to what Joe has said. Well, initially we didn't start off as a group, and this goes to all Ugandans. This goes to everyone who is listening to us, because it was distress calls. It was distress calls coming from different countries. I remember my initial rescue person I rescued was on Facebook. I saw the distress call on Facebook. And this young lady was crying in Zambia, So I'm like, what can I do? I went in, found out what she needed. And I remember, I think, sending $300 to her in Zambia, and she was able to come back to Uganda. And then there were several distress calls, and these distress calls are there. They are there. You go to Facebook, go to Instagram, you'll find them there. So out of it, when I responded, I also found somebody else. I found Joe, and we came together. So it's like we had a history, the presenting complaint that as we do medicine, the history of the presenting complaint, the current situation. And it's from studying, it's from looking at how do we stop this thing that we managed to bind out this small group, that we're still continuing, and we're still looking for more effort. We are calling for more effort because this, like you have said, it's a voluntary group. None of us is paid. I am at work, you can see. Joe can call me anytime. In the night, I can call him anytime, and we respond to these distress calls that we expect somebody from home better than us to respond to. So I just wanted to put in that bit of history because we didn't start off as an organization going to fight this, but we just started off as volunteers, somebody who sees a distress call and somebody is making an alarm. Are you responding as a Ugandan or not? So that's how we came together. I just wanted to bring in that. Thank you.
Okay. I was actually wanted to ask you guys, none of you stays in UAE, but the work you're doing, it is as if you are funded. Now you've answered it, because you know, some people, they think everything you're doing, the project you're doing, we may think there is a funder somewhere, somehow. So now you've answered it properly, that you're not funded. And let's go to Sarah and see what she's saying.
About the group, I think Dr. Mgenyi has explained all that, how we came together. Yeah.
That's only that. Okay.
Yeah, that's how we came together. That's I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Now, because the group we are all about, you're discussing about our human rights and human trafficking, things of that kind. And now in Uganda, I still believe we don't have human rights because the organizations are all locked up. People are suffering from different angles. What do you think could be, what's coming up next after the government of Uganda disseminates the human rights officers? Where are we heading? What's your opinion?
Yes, I think the closing of the offices of the United Nations Human Rights Organization is a concern to us, particularly as human rights defenders. Of course, in the wider context, we see the abuse, we see the gross human rights violations, and this also goes on, I think, to address the issue of workers' rights abuses in the Middle East. And because I think this goes on with a lot of impunity, so this actually workers' rights abuse does not become an issue. But I think, let me put things in context here to really relate to the topic here. First of all, one of the reasons why we've been having lots of challenges in the Middle East is because of the kafala system, which, this kafala system, the business model is, as a business model in relation to labor migration, is exploitative, is predatory, and is evil. So what it does, it puts a lot of power in the hands of the employer, who decides whatever he wants to do with the employee. For example, he can withhold your passport, he can curtail your rights, your freedoms. He will take away your phone. He will deny you food. He will pay you sometimes. He can withdraw your payment, and you have no place, and you have no place to really have recourse. So this is part of the problem why I think the labor externalization policy, its operationalization has failed, because the legal framework that was set up in Uganda is not enforceable. If we're looking at the recruitment agencies, they don't have any capacity, they don't have any authority to follow up on cases that have happened in the Middle East. That is one. Two, they are not in a way connected to the value system or the change system in the Middle East. Once they deploy the people, that is where it ends. They're not able to monitor. They don't have any oversight role. Yet, according to the labor externalization policy, they are supposed to have oversight role. They're not able to enforce that. Furthermore, I think the contracts that have been signed are not enforceable. They just remain a piece of, redundant piece of paper. These papers are not enforceable. So as far as the Middle East is concerned, that creates a problem, such that when rights are being violated, we cannot hold these people to account. First of all, we are not able to hold the companies to account. Second, we're not able to hold the culprits to account, particularly those who have caused injury to our people. In extreme cases, those who have even killed our people, we're not able to hold them to account. That is as far as the labor migration governance is concerned. In a much broader context, the closure of this office is of concern. I think this has been the last watchdog that has been reporting, although they've not been effectively protecting the rights of citizens, of the Ugandan citizens. Now, their closure means, it is very concerning. We don't know what is going to happen. The impunity is going to increase. And I think the human rights violations is just going to increase. Thank you.
Okay. And now the challenges are very many.
Let me just add on something small. Let me just add on something
May
small.
I jump in?
Yes, Sarah, join in.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what Georgia said. Sorry, Dr. Mgeni. I wanted to add on to that. One of the things I've been thinking about recently is the recruitment process, because to me, this is where the whole problem stems from. If the recruitment process, if there is loopholes, if there is no proper foundation and processes set in the very first place, it can be very hard to follow up on some of these cases and being able to resolve issues when they happen later on. And personally, I feel like there needs to be a system that, first of all, monitors the recruitment process, because at the end of the day, you are taking people from a country to another country. They're not cattle. Even cattle is accounted for, but they are human beings, and there's no process that follows up. There is no clear data system that follows up. So I feel like there is a huge chunk of how can I say, the breakdown in communication in terms of following up on data. And I know Dr. Mgeni is very, very passionate about this, about the people, their health conditions and the rest of it. But personally, I'm thinking they're not cattle. These are people. We need to account for each one of them. We need to be able to follow up once they've been recruited. But that follow up has to be set up right from the start, right from the recruitment process. How are we going to follow up? And then there has to be a monitoring system. Okay, they need to monitor on these people, the bosses and the girls working, and then there has to be some sort of supervision or like some way of every now and then, even if somebody hasn't raised any alarm, like there should be a way of checking on them. Are they still okay? Are they fine? And so on. So there's a lot that needs to be done. And in terms of data, who is keeping this data and where is it kept? And if any of these businesses go bust tomorrow, how are we going to follow up on these people? So I'm very, very much concerned about these issues. Thank you so much. So James, you can jump in.
What I wanted to mention is, I think it's a common statement that I think somebody, is it Lumumba from Kenya uses it a lot, even Dr. Kizza Besigye has used it. One, ignorance is a resource, poverty is a resource. Now, the people who are exporting this labor, one, they know we are poor, so they take advantage of that. They know we are ignorant, and they take advantage of that. Now, if you realize the few of us who are discussing, we are discussing this because one, we might not be that rich, but we're exposed. Two, the level of discussion tells you that we're not ignorant. We came in simply because you are on a social media and you are seeing a crying girl and you're interested in finding out what is this that is happening with this girl. You only get shocked to find out that somebody took that girl to the Middle East and you're like, who did it? Then you just can't connect up with the person who did it. The images that come from the Middle East are self-telling. These images are self-telling if you can look at them. And people are exploiting, because I don't want to forget the recent launch of the video that you are told not to feature. That's the whole thing. They don't want the world to know. Now, the sharing of information itself is the reason why these people are suffering. So the biggest problem that we have as of now, to me, sometimes it's not even the closure of the Human Rights Office. It is the lack of information. It's the huge population of ignorant people that we have at home, and it has been deliberately done. It has been deliberately done that people are not aware of themselves from in space, in time, name it all. So somebody comes in, you remember even our own president, okay, or the president of Israel, Docas gets irritated when you mention the president. Museveni has told the whole world, we have cheap labor in Uganda. Cheap labor in Uganda. Now, when somebody defines you as cheap labor and he advertises you and he's leading a country, then people look at where is this cheap labor. Then he finds people who can exploit this cheap labor. And that's how I've ended up in this quagmire. We have a lot of what people think is cheap labor for exploitation. And the conditions that favor that cheap labor are created at home, either through war, half-baked education, and just lack of jobs, because these girls go out as maids. On the other Twitter space of Wednesday, we showed an Arab, a hotel that has just been constructed in the Arab world. A 10,000 room hotel has been constructed there. They need labor. They need that cheap labor. But the issue is, back home, can we say we are stateless?
Okay.
Can we say we are stateless? I think that's the best one can say. And that's how we are operating. Thank you.
Okay. And now challenges are everywhere. And we want to find out who is causing these challenges to Ugandans who are in UAE. Because we believe that the government has not bothered itself to help its citizens. Because if the government was concerned about its people, maybe young boys, young men would stay here and then do other things. All technical institutes were done, were taken by I don't know which regime, I don't know. Whether Bote's regime or Museveni's regime, I don't know. But they're not even in existence. So immediately after graduation, everybody's just running away out of the country. Now, the question is, how can we overcome these challenges? Or which kind of measures can we put in place to help our people to stay here? Sarah, the mic is yours.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So you're asking how, in a way, there's like two questions in one. One is how can we keep people at home? And the second one is how can we take care of those who are away? And I'm going to separate them for the purpose of clarification. So the first one, how can we resolve the problems in the Middle East? Obviously, like we've previously stated, there needs to be a streamlined system, a process that monitors and supervises the entire process, the entire recruitment and the working and everything else. There is a system Joe talked about, the kafala system. We need to find a way to work around that. There is an issue of underpayment by the Ugandan workers that also needs to be addressed, because at the end of the day, they take on the same tasks, if not more, than their counterparts they work with, but they end up being paid way less. And I don't know if you've had a look at the document. And while I'm at that, may I point out that there's a document which maybe you would have had a look at, which has been sent to Parliament, and it addresses all these issues that could be addressed. It gives recommendations as to what could be done. So there needs to be a system. There needs to be a system, and how they get paid, and when they get paid, how does that money, who takes care of that money? Because at the moment, when they get paid where they are, it's the boss who opens the account for them, and he is the one who actually gives them access to their accounts. These people need to have these accounts set up before they even go, so that they have full access to their funding. Now, when you talk about how can we reduce the number of people going? Obviously, they're going because there's unemployment. If you look at the age and the demographics, rather, if you look at the demographics of people going, they're between a certain age and mainly of a certain sex, and most of them are female. They're young mothers who leave behind their children. And if this young mother leaves behind children, is because she's going to work to be able to fend for her children, to be able to pay for school fees and the rest of it. So how can we tackle that? Job creation is obviously on top of the list. How many jobs are being created in Uganda? What's the percentage of unemployment? So all these issues fall into different categories, into different ministries, and into different sectors as well. So these are things that have to be addressed if we're going to reduce the number of people going into this system. And while I'm at that, I would also like to talk about the problems that are going to stem from that, say, in the next 5-10 years. If these children they leave behind, say, for example, this young mother goes and she ends up maybe, God forbid, losing her life. And then that means that bread, what do you call it? That bread stream, that person who is bringing in that bread on the table is cut off, right? So if that person is removed from the picture, that means these children will not have the access to they won't be able to go to school, they won't be able to have anything. So at the end of the day, in 10 years time, we're going to have a huge number of people or children who haven't gone to school because the mother died in UAE. Now, I don't know about figures, but probably Joe might be well versed on this, like say how many people are brought back in the coffin or in the box every month, every week. So if you look at that and say to look at an average of maybe 2 children each, of which some of them have even more than 2 children, some of them have 4 or 5 children, or even like other siblings they look after. So if you look at the number of people coming back on average every week in the box or every month, and then look at the families they leave behind, there is going to be a huge problem in the future. Both we're going to have uneducated children, and they won't have the skills to even, it's going to be even we're going to be in a worse state than we are today. So yeah, create employment and create processes that protect these people. Thank you.
Do you think the government of Uganda is bothered of its people? Are they concerned? In your personal opinion?
Well, that's a question I can't answer. That's a question I cannot answer. But what I'm saying is what is on the table at the moment, there is a lot that hasn't been done.
Okay. Okay, let's go.
I could come in there, Roger, briefly. Exactly. I think, okay, much as I missed what the question you've just posed now, I think there is an issue of migrant labor governance crisis. There is a crisis, and this crisis is structural. That means the ministry the mechanisms that the labor externalization policy mechanisms that have been put in place and not functioning. I'll give you an example. Just look at the recruitment process itself. We don't even know how many people are going to the Middle East. We don't have the statistics too. The role of labor, I mean, the role of recruitment agencies is not effective. I mean, they are not effective. What do I mean by that? What they are supposed to be managers, or they're supposed to be managers of a human resource. Instead, they've become brokers of a human resource. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? I mean, they should take full responsibility and accountability for every human being who has been deployed. In other words, knowing about, one, their status while they're in the host country. Two, being able to follow up the labor relations, that is the relations between the employer and the employee. Two, three, being able to intervene if there is a crisis, if there is a dispute, if there is a grievance. Now, four, being able actually to act if there is a situation. Now we see that in all the situations, the labor recruitment agencies are not able to act. One, they don't have capacity. Two, there is even no, on the part of the ministry, there is no political will to enforce this. We've seen people who have ended up in situations, worst case scenarios, people who have come back, you know, I mean, they've come back in caskets for different reasons. We've seen people whose organs have been extracted and no action has been taken whatsoever. So there is an absolute dysfunction on the part of the government. And I think the government is not willing to admit and tell the truth. Why do I say that? Where's the evidence? We just seen what this film called On the Go that was supposed to premiere, that really discusses issues, challenges of the Middle East labor exports. The government doesn't want this film to air. If they're doing a good job, why don't they want citizens to see what is happening, the challenges that are there, and what is really being done? What this movie actually, what this documentary exposes is the mafia, the cartels that are running the industry. So I think, to answer the question, no, the government does not have the political will and does not have the capacity to implement this labor externalization policy. And that is why we've proposed a petition. That is why we propose a labor, a bilateral labor agreement, changes that will comprehensively address many of these challenges that we've highlighted. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Joe, before you go off. No, before Mr. Joe go.
May I?
You want, no, listen.
I need to add a little bit on that.
Because we are leaving.
I need to add.
I'll give you a chance. Do that because you have another engagement.
Okay.
Isawa Kako.
Yes, that's true. So, sorry?
Isawa Kako Gende.
So, I need to add on to this that we recently saw a video of the Minister of, what is it, external minister, or what do they call him, Oriema, talking about, I don't know if you saw it, talking about there's nothing we can do, they don't have to go, and the rest of it, we're not responsible. And I went like, well, why are you even in that position in the first place? Why do you have that post, that position, when you cannot do anything? Yeah, well, as we speak, this particular document is sitting on the, it has been delivered to different departments and organizations in Uganda, and it includes the Minister of Gender. And it's rather amazing that they haven't responded yet. So that's all I wanted to say about the video and the Minister of Gender. So go on.
Okay.
Roger, if I can just commenting on Oriem. The statement by Minister Orim is an indictment on this government, on the Ministry of Gender. Mr. Orim stands and says, okay, they are not going to help people who are working in the Middle East. Okay, now that is a very irresponsible statement, and that is a very it has a lot of ramifications. So why does a minister say that they are not going to help the people? I mean, you know, whilst they're allowing recruitment agencies to actively recruit people and deploy them to the Middle East, because that they should be consistent. If they're not going to help the people, then they should stop the labor externalization policy, period. It's no point deploying people knowing you do not have capacity to look after them as a government. You know, there should even be at least consular services. They should be able to deploy attaché or labor officers, you know, to intervene in many of these cases. So if they know they don't have capacity, why are they allowing recruitment agencies that have mushroomed now to, I think, a number of around 350, 400? Those are the registered ones. Then we have the unregistered ones. Why are they still deploying people to the Middle East? And much as they say that they've suspended, actually, much as they say that they've suspended the deployment of migrant workers, we know that they've not. They are still actively, the recruitment agencies are actively recruiting and sending people to the Middle East. So there is an issue of cognitive dissonance on the part of Oriem to say one thing and do another thing. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Joe, before you go, before Mr. James, I have two questions on that. Maybe everyone can have a leaf on it. The first question is, do you think the government, is there a relationship between UAE and Uganda? Two, do you think this government benefits from the situation that is taking place at this particular hour in UAE? Is there benefit, the government is benefiting from them?
Of course, there is, there is at the level of international relations, there are diplomatic relations. There is a diplomatic relationship, and which of course entails a number of things like trade or cultural exchanges and what have you. Now, as far as labor migration to the UAE is concerned, there's not been any bilateral agreement that has been signed and ratified. That is what I know. So people have been working in the Middle East. They've gone, I think, on the basis of on the basis of the work of the private recruitment agencies. So there's not been an intergovernmental kind of relationship, so to say. Are they benefiting? Without doubt. We know that people of the Middle East are remitting a whopping $900 US per year. Definitely, there is a benefit. So to me, you know, I think the remittances are much more than what we're earning even from our exports. So this is a resource that should be valued. This is a resource that should be protected, and this is a resource that should be taken care of. In other words, there is need for actually for streamlining these agreements where there are agreements. For example, between Saudi Arabia and Uganda, there is need. Now, where there are no agreements, there is need to initiate bilateral or multilateral agreements so that our workers' rights are protected and their welfare is guaranteed. That is what the government should be doing. Thank you.
Okay. Sarah, you have a concern, then to go to Dr. James.
It's just a quick clarification of the figure that Joe just gave. He said $900 US. I don't know if that was correct.
Apologies.
The figure that you just
900. It's $900 million US.
900 USA million.
Yes, 900 million.
let's go to Dr. James. Tell us, how can we overcome this kind of situation that is taking place in UAE?
The first thing I think that we are doing is the effort we're putting in. We are calling upon several people. We are calling upon the citizens of Uganda to be sensitive, to act, because some of these things must be corrected by the citizens. The other thing is, of course, we are speaking from a non-responsive government, so we need to fix governance at home. There's a question you had asked, because this is a picture of a grave. I've switched off light in the room so that perhaps it can be seen to the viewers. This is a picture representing a coffin coming back from Saudi Arabia. And the message here is simple. It says, on average, 5 young Ugandans are returned home dead daily.
Daily.
And, yes, and over 350 Ugandans live daily. That alone is a figure that should worry any person. And even if it is only 2 or 1 person coming back dead from overseas, it's something that should concern everyone. Even if it is 1, you have died away from home. These images, we don't create them. These are images that are in Kampala. These are images you get on Facebook. You find a young person crying, and you download and you get them in. I mean, you can take a picture of them. So these are things that are real. And look at this kind of condition. This is crammed up people in sleeping space, not on bed, but sometimes on the streets, sometimes in detention camps. Now, recently, this is a story which is true. It is winter, and it is winter everywhere. It's being said young people are dying of cold on the streets in the Arab world. If there is winter, if it is winter and there's snow like it is here, you need only 30 minutes for somebody to freeze, what we call frostbite. But these people are exposed either to extreme heat or extreme cold. And if not extreme heat, it is starvation. And if it is not starvation, it's dehydration. Now, those are subhuman conditions that every person should condemn. And how we do it, it's you and me. This is sensitization. This is making people aware. We are creating awareness. But besides that, there's need to fix government. And like I have said, if you are taking 350 people to the Middle East, I have you who had a background of sports, you know that if we are going to travel like these people who went to run, we send them with the medic. Yeah. We send them with the medic. Now, there's totally no coordination between Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Health in the Arab world, because 350 people going to the Middle East, those are medical histories. There could be gynecological histories. It could be sexual reproductive health histories. It could be any other disease that's going to the Middle East that the Middle East doesn't know how to manage. So you who is sending them must create a situation where that the people who are going to the Middle East, you are aware of what their needs are in terms of health care. That is not done. Now, we are talking about people exploited because of ignorance. So it's going to take a lot of us who are aware. And it's a great job. And I say kudos to this small team. We are a small team. We have stayed at this thing as if it is a job for us. And yet it's not a job. It's a voluntary thing that maybe you are talking to us. Even the featured documentary could be as a result of our speaking every Wednesday. We speak about this every Wednesday, and we have been there almost for over a year now. We speak about this. So we are raising awareness, but that alone is not enough. We are calling upon the citizens.
Okay.
It's about us, it's Ugandans. That's the little I can say. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know whether.
Roger, could I come in here?
Yes, come in, Mr. Joe.
If the author was seeking solutions, the migrant workers themselves actually have tabled a petition to Parliament, that seeks to address the labor externalization policy, to streamline it into, to address all these outstanding issues. This was done the 12th of September, 2022, 5 months down the road. The petition has not been presented on the floor of Parliament. Now, this is a very serious issue. We hear they've gone to benchmark in UAE, we hear they've gone to benchmark in Saudi Arabia. Benchmark what? This is a comprehensive report with some cases. If they want really to benchmark, there are enough returnees to speak to and ask questions. The population is sufficient, for them to do that. But there is no political will, and there is resistance. If anything, there is resistance. Now, the migrant workers have furthermore sent a bilateral labor agreement proposal in response to the recently suspended bilateral labor agreement between the government of Saudi Arabia and Uganda. And guess what? Still there is no action. We are saying the migrant workers who contribute $900 million per annum must have a place at the negotiating table. I mean, you cannot talk of you cannot talk of improving their rights when you've excluded them. This is a constituency that pays taxes. They must be taken seriously. They must be valued. They must be given their place at the negotiating table, and they must be part of the team to really discuss the rights, the welfare, and the interests of the migrant workers in the Middle East. So these are the solutions that we've tabled. They are before Parliament. There is no dilly-dallying. They must address this issue head on, and by including the migrant workers of the Middle East, in particular of Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Yes, we are almost winding, but before we wind, do we have those people that die every day and their bodies are not returned home? Do we have such a kind of categorical of people? Do we have them there and their bodies are not returned home when they die?
Dr. Haber, Dr. Haber, we shall use anecdotal evidence. Like I said, we do not have statistics. Even the government does not have statistics. They don't know how many people leave the country. They don't know how many people return to the country. What we know is that the numbers of people who leave the country are much more than the number of the people who return to the country. So account for that deficit. Where are that shortfall? Where are those people? Where are they? Sadly, we do not have records, but we have cases here and there of people who have died and they've not been claimed by their families, not even claimed, but when people die, the employers who connive with the recruitment agents, they put up conditions that make it impossible for the families to actually to repatriate these people. So some of these people go missing. Yes, so there are people who die and they're not repatriated and they're not accounted for. And this is one of the things that we've proposed, that anybody who perpetrate the violation of workers' rights must be held accountable, and there must be mechanisms to really punish, to penalize these people. And they should be investigated and they should be prosecuted. This is part of the strengthening of the bilateral labor agreement that we want to see, when we hold people accountable for the lives that they take away of Ugandans. So we don't have this situation where somebody's killed, they come home and then there is just a whole mess, no one is accountable, and the family loses. So yes, those situations are there.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Dr. Mgenyi, as you're summarizing, I don't know, we've not heard from Dorcas. I've not heard from Dorcas. Don't worry, power's gone, but we have plan B of lights here. Do not worry, guys. Let me switch on the other lights. As I was told you, we, I planned for this. we need to have plan B as we're summarizing because we are out of time.
There's a grim picture to this. There's a grim picture to this. You're asking, do you have information? However, you are in the media. If I asked you, do you have information on how many people are in Luzira? Do you have information on how many people are in Italia? Do you have information on how many people, name any prison that you know?
Mm.
You don't have that information.
Yeah, but
there are Ugandans who are missing at home, at home that we can't account for.
True.
Now we are talking about 350 people leaving the country to the world of the unknown. That's how grim the picture is. 350 people are leaving the country to the world of the unknown. And it is also on record, we have about 300 companies that are involved in exporting people. So 300 companies alone in a day take over 300 people to the world of the unknown.
Yeah.
And when they go there, they have gone to the desert conditions. They have gone to face some conditions, extreme temperatures, cold or hot. Now, whether they die, nobody has that answer.
Okay.
It is factual. People are leaving Uganda to the world of the unknown. So it is as sad as that. We don't have information, but we can only get scant information of if we got a relative who is lucky enough to get their person come back alive or dead. That's how grim it is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it. I thank you for your summary. Sarah, can you also conclude and say bye-bye to us? I don't know whether Dorcas, we can engage in terms of conclude. By the way, Dorcas, whether you're in another place, I request you conclude the discussion.
Okay. As Dorcas comes in, I have this message to the community, to the people in the villages. We know that recruitment is taking place across the country, and they go in those villages to dupe people, young people who are ignorant, who are illiterate. Now, to get people who are illiterate and send them to the Middle East, you're placing them in harm's way. So, dear parents, it is your duty in the current migrant labor climate. It is very, very risky to put your child on the plane. The odds are so high for them to come back alive. It is your responsibility. We've a message that must be disseminated down to the villages by the church, by traditional leaders, cultural leaders, civic society. What is happening is things, unless things improve, do not put your son on or your daughter on the plane. You had it from Minister Oriem, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. He said it. It can't be more blunt than that. It can't be less blunt than that. That is the reality. Do not put your child on the plane. What you expect is they can as well write their will because they will come back in a casket. It is bleak, it is gloom. Unless this government really wakes up and improves the condition in the current migrant labor climate, it is unadvisable to do that. Thank you.
Okay, let's go, Dr. James, and then we summarize. We are left with only 2 minutes to end the program. Dr. James, the mic is yours.
The summary has been done. The summary has been done by Joe, and like he said, before anyone ventures to go out, it's not only that what Joe has summarized. I listened to Rajiv Rupaila last week, in the middle of this week, where he said he's saving our children from hell, and that one is not true, because he mentioned it that they earn about 50 to 100,000 here, And where they go, they earn about 10 times, maybe 900,000. He says he's saving them from starvation. That is false. He's not saving anyone from starvation. He's instead exposing us to dangers. So, like every other person, I'll call upon anyone before your child goes out. Think twice.
All right.
This is something that we are not going to do every other day. It's not my job. It's not Joe's job. It's not Dorcas. It's not Sarah's. We're just attempting and volunteering. But we call upon every citizen of the country to rise up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to all our viewers all over the globe. We are very, very, very happy. And I believe this is the beginning, it's not the end. I think every week or every 2 weeks, we are going to be having this kind of discussion. We need to sensitize to help our nation to be where we want our country to be. I'm very grateful to Mr. Joe, away from Sweden. Thank you very much for engaging Dr. James, Dorcas, Sarah, and me, the host. Dr. James, I appreciate for your time. We can see you're still dressed in hospital wears, the gowns all over you. Moreover, so yeah, we are doing this purposely to save our nation. None of us is funded, but some people, they may think that there's somebody who is funding us to do this. But we're doing this for the good of our nation because we need to save our country. Live it, like it, hate it. I don't know when our country is going to be out of this kind of dungeon. I wish you a very lovely, Dr. James, I think you said now it's approaching to 1 in USA. It's approaching to 1. I wish you good afternoon. Joe, in Sweden, it's approaching at what time?
It's approaching 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
It's approaching 9 o'clock. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Also, I wish you a lovely evening. And Sarah.
I wish you a good one too.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Sarah has gone because she had to go for other engagements. And Dorcas, I know people are very engaged. We wish you a very lovely moment. See you next time. Same station, same person, different panelists. A lovely time. Goodbye.